Start talking, okay?
All right.
So,
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is William, and I'm going to be presenting the issue of the global housing crisis from an economic point of view. So what is the global housing crisis? Now, I would describe it in my own words as the system or the government's failure to provide safe, affordable, and adequate housing. And now, like the name suggests, it is a global issue affecting over 1.6 billion people with things such as homelessness, eviction, and displacement. Now, there are many predicted causes of the global housing crisis, such as land shortages and a mismatch in supply and demand, as well as a lower wages than the actual housing price. And now, I'm going to give a global example of my home state of Florida. And as you can see here, we have a chart of some famous Florida cities such as Orlando, Miami, Tampa. And over here is the 2024 median housing price. So for example, we have Orlando. The median housing price was $405,000. And that was a 8.5% increase from 2023. That's the year-over-year increase. Now, the main outlier here is actually only 40 minutes down the road from where I live. It is Daytona Beach, and yes, the housing price is lower than most of the cities on this list, but you look at the percent increase, it is an 18% increase from 2023. That means it's around a $45,000 increase from the previous year, the median housing price. And there are numerous amount of factors that attribute to these high prices, such as Florida being a popular destination. There's so many attractions here like Walt Disney World, Universal, as well as the nice weather and the beautiful beaches. Florida also is a business-friendly state with no state income tax, and we recently passed a bill that eliminated state property tax. Also, with the nice weather, you have the caveat of severe weather, such as hurricanes, tornadoes, and flash flooding. And also another factor is if you're close by the beach, the salt water from the ocean actually can erode some of the building materials, so maintenance is highly expensive. So the effects of mega companies. Now, a lot of people try to pin the blame on Wall Street, these Wall Street institutional investors, such as Airbnb, Blackstone, big-time investors. And now, yes, 33% of single-family homes as of Q2 of 2025 are owned by these investors. However, 87% of that 33% are owned by small-time investors that own maybe 1 to 5 homes. It's only 2% of that 33% that own over 10,000 homes, such as Blackstone and Airbnb, so they don't have as strong as effect as people think they do. And now, this is not the best map. However, we can see Florida is about a teal color, and looking at the bar graph, the key up there, I would say around 15% of the homes in the state of Florida are owned by investors. But that accounts for 1.1 million investor-owned homes in the state of Florida. In my opinion, or not my opinion, based on the research, the biggest issue for the global housing crisis, the biggest cause is the mismatch between supply and demand. And like previously stated, with the state of Florida, it is a very popular state, and over 873,000 people moved in, and only 514,000 people moved out. That's still a net increase of 400,000 people. Thus, you have a lot of people moving in, but you don't have that supply of the houses. And my aunt, who's been working in real estate for over 40 years, said if you have a high demand but a low supply, you're going to have higher prices. And with Florida, since it's such an attractive destination, you have domestic buyers, international buyers, investors, they all want a piece of the pie. And now you can see the opposite with other countries, such as Japan, where they have their IKEA. I hope I'm saying that right. And that's a term used to describe houses, usually in rural areas, that have been vacated. And now previously that was thought to be because of people moving to urban centers, such as Tokyo and Kyoto. And you can see the rise in housing prices in Tokyo go up to 15.89% in 2025. However, you also have to account for the low birth rate in Japan and the population decline. And as it continues to decline with 800,000 people in 2023 moving out of Japan or dying, you can see a lot of more vacant houses, even in population centers. As we can see, 14% of Japanese houses, according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, are vacated. And due to tax policies, it is easier to just leave these houses standing than to demolish them. And you also have countries like Italy that have gimmicky programs to attract people moving in, such as the €1 program, where you can buy a house for €1 in Italy as long as you renovate it. Or in northern Italy, in the province of Trento, where they give you €100,000 to buy a house and then renovate it and stay there for 10 years. As the population decline is so bad in those areas, even though Italy is starting to stabilize overall their population decline. So is there a perfect solution to this? The answer is no. There is no perfect solution to solving the global housing crisis. You have to sacrifice something, unfortunately. You can't magically fix the crisis by... there's no way. You're going to have to sacrifice something, whether it is a certain industry, like for Florida, the tourism industry, or you might have to sacrifice the pay of some of the builders, which is really difficult. But there is a best solution, and the best solution is to create government incentives that are easily accessible for more affordable houses. And this is a big word. Accessible is a very important word here, and we'll get into that later. But these houses can be built and given to people at a cheaper price, specifically if they've been native to that area, lived in that area, as well as they meet certain criteria that allows them to have an affordable house, saying that they need this affordable housing. So it can work with a higher demand and lower supply situation, such as the state of Florida. And Florida is actually trying to actively do this. They have something called the Live Local Act, where if you meet a certain economic criteria and you live in the state of Florida, you're a Florida resident, you're not moving in, they will give builders incentives to sell these houses to those residents. However, the problem with this, as stated by my aunt, is it is extremely hard to get these grants. If there is a more efficient way to get these grants, and that's why I said accessible is a key word here, if there's a more efficient way to get these grants, it can make it to where we can have more affordable housing in the state of Florida. And yes, this could affect the tourism industry, but if I were the governor of the state of Florida, I would care more about the prices of the residents than the people who are coming in for a short amount of time, or who are living elsewhere and coming here. But anyways, we're going to go to what about high supply and low demand, such as Japan and Italy? Well, this will both reward the people who live there, who still live there, as well as giving them incentives to stay in that area. And also, you know, as I said with Japan, some people are moving out because of not having as many opportunities in that area than a place like Kyoto or Tokyo. So this could have a trickle-down effect with the economy, where more jobs are created in that area, boosting their economy as more people look at the low housing prices and see the housing prices overall lowering and staying. So to summarize, the global housing crisis is, like I said, global and affects 1.6 billion people yearly. And there are many different causes of it, but the main cause is the mismatch in supply and demand. And to fix this, to account for this, we can create incentives, the government can create incentives for these builders to create affordable housing for the people already living in the area and that meet the certain economic criteria. And so I have my sources here. One to note is an interview I had with my aunt over Messenger. I also have some sources from reliable news sources like CNN and NBC, as well as sources from the World Economic Forum. Here's some more sources. Like I said, an article from CNN. And there we go. 6 seconds left.